Ladies and gentlemen, SideStrafe here, and I know it's been a while since my last Battlefield 3 video. However, bringing it to you with some Caspian Border Armored Combat, I've actually got two buddies with me filling out this tank for maximum devastation. All three engineers, of course. Typically quite the way to go, as it is very lethal. Being able to have two engineers pop out and quick heal, and well as just be able to communicate on Ventrilo, calling out targets, marking targets for the guided shell and whatnot. Really effective. However, there are a few other things that I'd just kind of like to use this video to actually talk about, just in regards to the Battlefield community, and kind of ask your opinion as the community as to what you think is going on in the next couple of months or in the future for Battlefield 3 or the Battlefield franchise in general. So basically, on that note, let's look at the community. What's going on? Well, today it's a Sunday, actually, on the 22nd of January, and I was doing the old server browser and looking to myself, yes, and you know, there's not that many people on these servers, especially for a Sunday. I know maybe it's like a family day, people are hanging out, doing stuff outside, whatever, that's cool. But on normal days, sometimes even busy nights, I find that it's getting quite difficult to find a good maximum capacity server on a regular basis. You can find one easily, no problem, especially being a PC gamer, but it's just not as vast as it was, you know, closer to launch or even a little further beyond that. Which kind of, you know, raises some questions. How's the community doing? Is the support by EA and DICE dropping? You know, what kind of things do we have to look forward to in the future? Obviously, EA is the type of company that wants to make promises. They've stated that they want to support the game fully. As we take out this helicopter here, can we finally knock him out of the sky? Come on, let's do it. Where's that guided shell? There it goes. Is it gonna hit? I think it's gonna hit. It hit. Anyway, you know, EA and DICE, they said they want to really support this game with DLC. So far, we've had one DLC. We've had a couple of patches here and there, one bigger patch than, you know, normal, but not much else really. You know, a couple of battle log things like that, but nothing too major after that. At this point, the game is what it is, and there hasn't really been any hints, rumors, or announcements. Well, I take that back. There has been a rumor as to the possibility of a 2143 either expansion or sequel. As most of you may recall, Battlefield 2142, being the futuristic version of the Battlefield franchise, was quite popular with some. I loved it, but there was a couple of people that didn't really like it just because it was kind of like sci-fi. I guess some people don't dig sci-fi, but I really thought it was cool. I know my friends did as well. So it would be interesting to see a 2143 with this amazing game engine. However, will it be an expansion pack? Will it be a lower-end DLC, kind of like Battlefield Bad Company 2 had the Battlefield Vietnam DLC for $14? Will it be something that scale, that small, or will it actually be something larger, you know, a bigger $30 expansion pack, or an actual sequel that's, you know, 60 bucks or whatever? So it'll be kind of interesting to see what that may be. What would you guys pay for? Would you guys like to pay for a full-blown sequel to 2142? Or would you like to just pay for like a smaller $14 DLC, kind of like Battlefield Vietnam? I myself think that I would actually not mind having a full-blown 2143. However, I would also like to see this current game be supported for many years to come, as that is basically what DICE promised. So hopefully they'll keep up on that and not do what Call of Duty does and release a game every year and it just be a couple new levels, maybe a couple new weapons, and just a rehash of the same old duck hunt content. So let's hope that this game does get the support that it deserves. But let's look at some of the action here right away. As you can see, we've switched up some of the roles over the time. At this point, I'm actually in the CITV station, and my buddy hops out to do a couple repairs on the way. The other thing I want to mention is actually I am playing normal mode in this match, and I usually don't play normal mode. I'm usually playing hardcore mode because I prefer the heavier damage. However, the reason that I was in here was that, like I said earlier, I just couldn't find a really good hardcore server that I found to be reliable. So I had to just kind of pick a normal server, which I know most people play anyway, but, you know, I'd rather be in a vehicle than if I have to do that, just because the bullet ballistics not being as lethal just annoy the crap out of me, so definitely got to go into a vehicle if I'm playing normal and get blown up in the meantime. But as you can see here, it was a pretty decent match in our favor. We kept having to just back and forth between most of these checkpoints. We would take Alpha most of the time, and then they would take it back, and then we'd go up, take, you know, another point, and somebody else, they would just keep taking Alpha over and over again instead of really focusing on some of the other points, which is actually a mistake because it's very easy for the Marines to retake Alpha. It just, you know, has to be focused on, and you got to not forget it. There's even a couple of times where you'll see somebody take a point, not realize that somebody's on the flank retaking it, and they'll just drive away from it, and we'll have to kind of recap it. But for the most part, even though there were some close calls in this one, we do manage to hold most of the points. But it seems to flip-flop back and forth between the different teams there. But as you can see here, we're mostly relying on the guided shell on the primary at that distance there, trying to get some hits on what I believe might be an AA vehicle. We get him there with an assist. We've got good communication over Ventrilo, calling out targets, contact left, contact right, whatever. And we're just trying to, you know, make sure that people lock on to things, especially those pesky helicopters. One thing that has also been a big complaint as of late has been the lock-ons in general. The soft lam lock-ons and the other types of missile lock-on systems in the game that really just seem to annoy a lot of the community. The Javelin, for example, has been the biggest complaint as of late. I think since they kind of fixed it, it's pretty devastating at this point in time, especially if you got somebody backing you up with just refills on ammunition. It becomes a tough weapon to deal with, especially when you're just thinking about infantry that you can barely see half the time. And I believe in this example here, we're pretty much about to be knocked out by a Javelin. So what are your feelings on that? Do you guys, you know, think that it's something that needs to be balanced somehow? I mean, it is a Javelin, let's face it. It's an anti-tank missile, I believe, that's meant to come down from the top where the tank is weakest in armor and destroy it. So, you know, it is what it is. However, you know, look at half of this game. I mean, even we're using lock-on systems to take out all these vehicles. Do you feel that there's too much locking on in this game? Do you feel that the challenge is being removed from the game? You know, I mean, it kind of reminds me, like today I actually said to my friend, I was like, you know what, I'm almost ready to go back to some World War II action with, you know, like old school Battlefield 1942, where there's just no lock-ons. It's just, you know, manual aiming of everything, whether you're in a tank, a vehicle, an airplane, or on foot. No more locking on, no more cheap stuff, no more thermal vision. You know, sometimes those things are cool, but even though they exist in some capacity in the real world, it's still, when it comes down to being a video game, sometimes just feels like, well, you know, back in the day we used to complain about hacks and cheats and things like that, and sometimes it almost feels like, I mean, look at it. I mean, look at right now. I'm in thermal vision. It's nearly impossible for infantry to hide from me. Now, you know, whether it's, you know, realistic, arcadey, fake, whatever, a simulation, you know, it is what it is, and it's not too bad to where it makes the game just unplayable, but it does raise that question of how challenging are video games these days? Is this game as challenging as it could be? And that jet crashing on in my face completely, as, you know, as awesome as it is, like, let's face it, if we had ultimate realism, that thing that just happened there with the jet slamming down to the ground, no, we probably wouldn't have things like that. We probably wouldn't have jet pilots that were that crazy, that would want to fly that low to the ground, that would make us all scream on Ventrilo about how cool that just was, you know? So that's what Battlefield is. And we don't really want Battlefield to be anything else because it's Battlefield. It's not supposed to be 100% realism. And it's not also supposed to be 100% arcade. It's always been in that mix, that in-between game. I mean, because basically if you want realism, you can go play Armed Assault or, Operation Flashpoint or whatever and get a realistic game where one bullet kills you, or the old school Ghost Recon games. And don't get me wrong, I love those games, and I wish those games would do better and come out with more games like that, but, you know, it is what it is. But you know, we have Battlefield, but it still raises the question, does Battlefield cross the line a little bit too much sometimes in terms of arcadey? But, you know, it is doing pretty well in comparison. Really, honestly, guys, is there much to compete with this game? I mean, the latest Call of Duty game, let's face it, I've hinted at the fact that I've, you know, not really appreciated that game, or that I don't really like that game. And I'll just come out and say it. No, I don't really like Call of Duty Modern Warfare. It's not for me. I don't care if other people like it, because there's a lot of people that don't like Battlefield as well. But when it comes down to it, my whole point is, the last Call of Duty failed. It's horrible, guys. I'm sorry for the people that paid for it. It's just not a good game. They ripped you off. It's not even the same developer that made it. It's just that they have the same name, but it's not the same people. And, you know, that's the thing, is that Battlefield 3 basically, in my opinion, really doesn't have that much competition. And I almost think that's a bad thing sometimes too, because I think everything in life should have competition. Whether it's a video card manufacturer, a processor manufacturer, a board game, a food product, there's always got to be competition to keep the competitor or the individual companies at war with each other, to make sure that they step it up a notch. If there's no competition in the gaming industry, just like World of Warcraft basically, for so many years, we're the best MMO, nothing can touch us, we can slack off and suck if we want a little bit, because nobody can make anything better than us. And that's pretty much what it comes down to. So I want there to be a game that can compete with Battlefield 3, but I don't think it was Call of Duty. Hopefully there will be something that will say, hey, we should really keep this perfection up so that, you know, this game stays awesome, because that's what we really want. But anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this bit of gameplay. I know I've been ranting on for quite some time, but I don't do it too often, and I really want your guys' responses. Definitely comment on everything that I've said. Lay down your responses, your opinions. They're very important. Also, if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. It's free. It's good for you. It's good for me. Anyway, guys, this has been SideStrafe. Hope you enjoy it. Take care and see you on the next one.